when I was invited to this residency, I started to look up the place, started to look up Narva and the green home, and I was just so inspired by this river that used to fuel literally this huge factory. And I was actually thinking to do something with this very wild river. And then slowly I realized through some email change that, oh, well, actually the river is almost always empty. Then I arrived here, and the very first night I arrived here, I went to walk in the green home with Miriam, the director back then, and we just had the most magical experience. We entered, and the first thing we saw were this beautiful long-haired cat, one mother, 3 small kittens, and they were just so beautiful, and we were just like, oh, both totally in love, and like, oh, and I'm a crazy cat lover, so for me it was like always the best thing happening anytime, anywhere. So that was already great. Then we went on to walk through the buildings, and at a certain moment, Amir was like, shh, there's something big moving in the bushes, and I was like, what? And then just like when we approached the place where she saw something moving, like 2 meters in front of us, a deer just like, just ran away. And she was completely like, I've never seen this here, never, ever. And she has been on like 400 of these walks because she was here already 4 years, introducing every new artist to the space and to the location. So it was just magical, and it was this fall of the evening, it was this very hot summer, like it was 30 degrees all the days. So that was already great. Then we went on with our walk, and we, well, it's a private space, but the residents can enter, and there was another couple of residents, and they were watching towards the river that's actually close to the border, or actually on the border with Russia. And they said, shh, come, come, come. I was like, what? There are 2 beavers here. We're like, what, 2 beavers? So it was just like animal after animal after animal coming here to greet us. And that was just, that just set the tone for the rest of my evenings. So from then on, I every evening at the same time went alone there on my walk. And very soon I decided, still I'm so fascinated by this river, even if it's empty. Now maybe even more, it becomes some place that can be everywhere. It can be a river, it can be even out of space. It can be a huge landscape like the Grand Canyon. If you frame it in the right way, it just can be everywhere and anywhere, and it still has this collection of traces of this feisty river running through it, creating all this literal energy for this huge operation that was here. So I did a lot of things, starting to film the cats just because I can't help myself. But eventually I focused on the riverbeds, the empty riverbeds. And I filmed a lot, and every evening I filmed again. Did some zoom ins, did some zoom outs, just collected footage, sounds. And then when I left Narva, the process started to unfold. I quite soon knew, actually I didn't want to use moving image because I really wanted to use the space how it is, and I didn't want to add something to the walls, to be able to hang something to the walls. I wanted it to be like it is, the building here, because it's connected historically to the green home. And then I started to think material-wise, spatial-wise, and then the idea of some prints hanging came, and then hanging became quite quickly floating, and then floating and hanging together quite quickly became flags. And then I had this like, oh, flags, and there's a border, and it just started to click. And then I went home and I searched through all the imagery, and I knew I took both pictures and footage from the riverbeds. I did some animation through it, and then eventually, yeah, it came down to the one image that just like stuck and was the most I guess, the most pronounced in the same way as the most open one. And this image became the base of the whole work, where I have this zoom in through this image. So the first image is just like how it was pictured, just like normal size, and then through every flock it just like it zooms in, and the last one becomes kind of a cloud. So it's again like this solid stone becomes something maybe even vaporized or fluid again, like the river once was. To the right, here. Yes, and you too. Leila, follow me. Yeah, okay. Best poses now, dear. Wait, I need more light. So the title of the work is a quite long one. I think it stems back from my background as both a musician and a filmmaker. So I'm used to having this length of material. So now, for the very first time, actually, I have a kind of work that's standing still, although it isn't standing still, but there is no going from point A to B except for the visitor, which is exactly also something I'm searching for. So the title became From Edges and Shadows They Travel to Light. And it's this idea of a journey. And it's something that I'm now looking for in my work. I don't want people to stand still. Even when I make a movie, I don't want people to stand still in front of it. I want them to move. I want them to experience, well, this one singular moment in that space, in that exact time, with that exact light coming in, with the visitors that are accompanying them, with the sound seeping in from outside or inside when I make a sound work. It will never be the same as it would be shown the next day in exactly the same room, but also if it would be shown in another space. And that's why working in situ now for me is really, it feels like coming home in a way. Like for me now, it's a new path I'm taking, but it works so well for me because it's where I can really play with all these different motions, which I normally put in sound or moving image, and now it's just actually having the public emote the work. There's this beautiful phrase by Anne-Theresa Keersmaker, who is a choreographer in Belgium, and she started to think about my walking is my dancing. And I think there's some similar search for me, like it's through the walking, it's through the experience with the work itself that it comes alive. It's not just watching it standing still, because it's so much about the architecture and it's so much about just that singular experience that I want people to have. So I have plenty of footage now of Krenholm. I have so much sounds that I recorded. There was this beautiful evening where there was all these frogs starting a choir, and then the seagulls joining in, and it just like became this huge, loud choir, because they're both very loud animals and like they're really making themselves known. I played with the sand. Like I said, I made so many videos of both the riverbed and the animals, and eventually, yeah, they're still with me. Who maybe something comes out of it, maybe not. But when working towards the exhibition, there was this idea of making a sound work, and every time I started to work on the sound work, another sound work of my own just came back to me, and like it just seemed like, okay, I can try to recreate a certain atmosphere, but I can also just invite this sound work in. It's created in 2013, yeah, and like the title says, it's inspired by this Landwash, which is the line in the sand that divides the sea from the shore. And that's what it's playing around, and you can hear it, there's waves coming back, but actually no wave is exactly the same. And sometimes there's a little more melody seeping in and then it's going out again. So it's it just started to link so beautifully to the work, to these waves of the flags, to the absence of the water at one side, and now you have something, well, that has this thought of water in it, not actually bringing it, but just this thought of it coming back to the empty riverbed.
I love you.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Good.